Every soldier who ever crouched in a foxhole as a 30-ton steel machine rolled toward him understood the same primal terror. The tank seemed unstoppable, impenetrable, the product of an equation that infantry simply could not solve. For the first 2 years of the Second World War, they were right. But here is a better question than what weapon stopped the Panzer. It is this: how does a length of scrap pipe found on a junk pile, built in a single afternoon, with sights bent from a wire coat hanger, become the weapon that fundamentally rewrites the relationship between infantry and armor forever? The answer begins not on a battlefield, but in a scrapyard in Maryland. And it changes warfare so completely that even the enemy copies it.
To understand what the bazooka solves, you first have to understand the problem it is solving. By 1941, the tank dominates European battlefields in a way that no previous weapon had. The German Panzer IV rolls into France, Poland, and North Africa with armor that rifle fire simply bounces off. Anti-tank rifles, the first desperate answer, fire bullets large enough to penetrate early tank armor, but as German engineers thicken their holes, the rifles become useless. The Allied infantryman stands in the open, watching 30 tons of steel bear down on him, and has almost nothing to fight back with, except grenades he cannot throw far enough and prayers that artillery arrives in time.
The U.S. Army knows this problem is coming. In 1942, the need for a weapon powerful enough to take out an armored tank leads to the development of a shape-charge anti-tank grenade, effective against armor 2.4 inches thick, but it weighs 3.5 pounds, far too heavy to throw by hand. The grenade exists. The lethality is there. What America needs is a way to deliver it from a distance. Enter Captain Leslie Skinner and a scrap pile. In 1942, Skinner receives the M10 shape-charge grenade and tasks Lieutenant Edward Uhl with creating a delivery system for it. Uhl's solution arrives not in a laboratory, but by accident. Walking past a scrap pile, Uhl spots a metal tube that happens to be the same diameter as the grenade they are converting into a rocket. "I said, that's the answer," he later recalls. "Put the tube on a soldier's shoulder with the rocket inside, and away it goes."
It is one of the great moments of accidental genius in military history. A weapon that will be fired by hundreds of thousands of soldiers, copied by 3 separate nations, and spawn every rocket launcher on Earth for the next 80 years. Conceived because a lieutenant happened to walk past a junk pile at the right moment. Uhl and Skinner take their prototype to a competitive evaluation at Aberdeen Proving Ground in May 1942. 5 different spigot mortar designs are competing for the anti-tank contract. The current favorites? All 5 miss the moving tank target. Uhl's launcher, using sights bent from a wire coat hanger that morning, scores several hits. The watching general, Major General Gladian Barnes, fires it himself. Then he names it, after the absurd tubular musical instrument popularized by radio comedian Bob Burns. He calls it the bazooka.
The production contract goes to General Electric on May 20th, 1942. The weapon that begins as scrap pipe is now in mass production. America moves from concept to contract in under 3 months. The bazooka's genius lies not in brute force, but in physics. The weapon delivers a shaped charge using the Monroe effect, a principle in which an explosive, detonated with a conical copper liner, focuses its energy into a superplastic jet moving at roughly 8 kilometers per second, capable of punching through up to 5 inches of hardened steel armor plate. The tank's great advantage, its armor, suddenly means nothing. It doesn't matter how thick the steel is if the jet is moving faster than the armor can resist.
For the first time in the war, a single infantryman, crouching in a ditch, carrying a 13-pound tube on his shoulder, can kill a tank. The first combat use comes in November 1942 during Operation Torch in North Africa. It is an unimpressive debut. The troops receive almost no training.
The early M6 rocket is unreliable, prone to misfiring in heat and humidity. By May 1943, no confirmed report of the weapon stopping a tank has been received, and further use is suspended. The weapon that wins the trial at Aberdeen is failing in the desert. But here is what matters. Somebody else is watching.
In 1943, German forces in Tunisia capture a quantity of American bazookas. The Wehrmacht's engineers examine the weapon with intense interest. They see not what it is, but what it could become. They take the shaped charge principle, upscale the warhead from 60 millimeters to 88 millimeters, redesign the propellant system, and produce their own version within months. They name it the Panzerschreck, tank fright. Under ideal conditions, a single shot could knock out any Allied tank on the battlefield.
The Americans have handed Germany the blueprint for a weapon that will now be used against them. It is one of the stranger ironies of the war. But it also proves the concept beyond any doubt. If Germany, whose engineers produced the Tiger, the Panther, and the 88 millimeter gun, concludes that the bazooka's core principle is worth copying at scale, the principle is sound. America responds. The improved M9 launcher, appearing in October 1943, features a longer barrel, a cleaner burn cycle, and a disassembling two-piece design that paratroopers can carry through a jump. Production accelerates. By February 1944, every infantry company carries 8 bazookas. A full battalion carries 40. A regiment carries 93. The weapon that could not stop a single confirmed tank in North Africa now saturates every Allied infantry unit in Europe.
And then Normandy changes everything. In the bocage country of northern France, narrow lanes hemmed in by ancient hedgerows, visibility measured in yards, not miles, the tactical equation inverts. The Tiger and Panther, supreme in open country, are suddenly blind and slow in terrain that favors the man on foot. Panzerschreck teams and their American equivalents set up roadblock ambushes along wooded trails, attacking tanks from close range as they slow to navigate the hedgerows. The tank that once terrorized open ground now fears the infantrymen in the ditch. One weapon does not win the war in Normandy, but the bazooka fundamentally alters the calculus. A German tank commander in bocage country can no longer assume that infantry is his subordinate problem. Every hedgerow conceals a potential killer. Every narrow lane is a potential ambush. The Panzer, which in 1940 had made the infantry irrelevant, must now move carefully, slowly, through terrain controlled by men with tubes on their shoulders. General Eisenhower later names the bazooka one of the 4 tools of victory that win the war for the Allies, alongside the atom bomb, the Jeep, and the C-47 transport aircraft. That list is worth sitting with. Not the Sherman, not the B-17. A scrap pipe with a bent coat hanger for a sight.
The bazooka's legacy does not end in 1945. It is the direct ancestor of every rocket-propelled grenade launcher used in every conflict since. The first infantry weapon capable of reliably destroying a tank. The progenitor of the RPG family that defines infantry anti-armor combat from Vietnam to Ukraine. But its deepest lesson is not about the weapon itself. It is about who wins the arms race between armor and the man trying to stop it. For decades, military planners had assumed that the tank represented a permanent shift of power toward the machine and away from the soldier. The bazooka, born from a junk pile, named after a novelty horn, built with a clothes hanger for a sight, proves them wrong. In warfare, the armor is never the last word. It is only ever the question. And somewhere in a scrapyard or a laboratory or a soldier's desperate improvisation, somebody is already working on the answer.